Okay, so it seems like the issues between Boruto and Jujutsu Kaisen, more so stemming from the fandom, but in general as a whole, has probably come to a close for the most part after this update. Because in case you didn't know, for a bit now, there's been some tensions brewing between both series in regards to, well, the fact that the Boruto series was initially a spin-off sequel from the Naruto series, and Jujutsu Kaisen recently got that Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo spin-off, and I guess the very nature of the Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo spin-off has kind of rubbed Boruto fans the wrong way, so to speak, because of course most people know that the Boruto series is essentially a sequel spin-off from the Naruto story that follows the journey of the next generation. And while we get appearances from some of the previous cast from time to time, ultimately it primarily focuses in on the newcomers, so to speak, the ones that came after the fact. Obviously, you know, Boruto, Sarada, and the kids of the previous generation. And the Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo spin-off kind of went a similar route, because opposed to what Boruto did with like it being just, you know, the kids of the main character, this one takes place a while after and essentially is like the grandkids, and it's not even necessarily the grandkids of like the previous main characters, Yuji and them. It's more so from the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero cast that do appear in Jujutsu Kaisen. I know that all sounds kind of confusing, but essentially this one is about grandkids, the other one is about like the kids. And before we continue, if you would hit that subscribe button and that bell, I'd greatly appreciate it. That way you could get these videos on time. Hitting that bell means that the notification will come to you a lot sooner, so do your best to hit them buttons. I'm saying do your best like it's a challenge. And well, when this whole thing started, a lot of Boruto fans were essentially accusing Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo of copying off of Boruto simply because of the format and the style that it decided to go on, with it being the next generation and not continuing on with the previous generation. And so that led to a lot of back and forth within the community, within the fandoms, a lot of people pointing out stats, this, that, and the third, because we know that despite the fact that Naruto is literally one of the most iconic anime and manga of all time, one of the highest sellers of all time, one of the most highly regarded, one of the most influential, like Naruto, no matter what anybody can say, ultimately is one of the founding fathers of the next generation of anime and manga, because without Naruto holding it down, especially in the West for how long it did, the anime and manga scene in one form or another would have been like vastly different. Like series like My Hero Academia and Black Clover were heavily inspired by Naruto in one form or another, and yeah, obviously the generations after kept on going in whatever form, but Naruto, you know, set the stage. Not to say Naruto wasn't inspired by others that came before, like Dragon Ball and stuff, you get what I mean. However, the Boruto story, despite the fact that it still is successful in its own right, it still has sold pretty well, it's still one of the highest and most read manga out there for a monthly, and in general it tops the Manga Plus apps, like most read manga. Like it's still very much so successful in comparison to its predecessor Naruto. Clearly it's not as successful and clearly doesn't sell as much. Jujutsu Kaisen as a series has been a monster, dominating sales charts. It beat out One Piece for a few different years. Like Jujutsu Kaisen has done some stuff that most people were like, whoa, you know, it's really successful in its own right as well. I think it literally just made the list recently based off of alone a few volumes that came out, like a couple volumes, the last 2 volumes, and it made like top selling manga of the year as well. So Jujutsu Kaisen is a pretty big deal as far as sellers go. And so when the Jujutsu Kaisen spin-off sequel was releasing its first volume, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Volume 1, a lot of people were looking at it as, okay, this is gonna be a tester for starters on, does these sales of like the previous generation translate? Are people gonna actually pick this up based off the name of the previous one, as well as, you know, the work? Because quickly to note, Boruto, before it actually started, it had a short mini-series sequel spin-off similar to what Modulo is right now, because Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is not meant to last that long, and the previous spin-off sequel of Naruto, essentially the Sarada Gaiden stuff, that was also a like mini-series as well. And that mini-series spin-off actually sold ridiculously well. So a lot of people were looking at Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Volume 1 as like, okay, is this thing gonna sell great as well? Like, what's gonna happen here with Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo? Because the parent series just ended not too long ago, and it's still, you know, an incredibly popular thing. The Jujutsu Kaisen anime is, as of the recording of this video, still airing the latest season, and everybody's going crazy for it. So a lot of eyes were on, well, what is this thing gonna sell like? In particular as well, again, this whole rivalry between Boruto and Jujutsu Kaisen. Boruto fans were like, well, let's see what y'all got. And Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo debuted in 7 days at #1 on the charts with 190,989 sales, becoming one of the highest volume ones of all time. Like, that is an incredible feat, especially in the market we're in nowadays, where, you know, I've talked about this so many times that they focus so much more on the anime that the manga sales haven't been really reflecting what they deserve. So to get these type of sales for a spin-off sequel was massive. But in coming the rivalry, right? Because Boruto and Jujutsu Kaisen fans for for a bit now have kind of been at each other's necks, again, comparing stats and whatnot. And while Jujutsu Kaisen did 190 in 7 days, Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the actual sequel that came, after, not the Naruto Gaiden, even though technically the Naruto Gaiden stuff was mainly, a Sarada story. It was, a Next Generation story as well. But that did 183,413 copies in 4 days. Essentially in the same ballpark, more or less. If you would have added extra 3 days, it probably would have did around the same numbers, if not more, than Jujutsu Kaisen. But some Boruto fans do want to point out something, that the Naruto Gaiden story, while technically, yes, it is Naruto Gaiden, it does take place within the Boruto timeline. It does primarily focus in on Sarada Uchiha, which is a Boruto generated character. I say it like if we're talking video games, but you get what I'm saying. But regardless of what, it's definitely a testament to that. If you just compare both of these two juggernauts or whatnot, well, I guess like 50 Cent kind of put it with Lloyd Banks and Fabulous, they're the same. As far as sales go, at the very least, they both did around 190. If you would have added the extra 3 days, Boruto probably would have did that, if not more, if not a little less, but it's basically the same shit. So essentially, the numbers even themselves reflect on kind of the ridiculousness of the back and forth between both fandoms. Like, by no means am I coming in here to be like the peacemaker or whatever. Like, yo, fans is gonna go crazy at each other's necks regardless, so I ain't here to play peacemaker. What I'm trying to say is this: for a sequel spin-off series of any series to actually do decent numbers is a rarity. For a level of popularity to be sustained after the Father series, it's a tough deal. And so for both of these series to do about $190 in a week or so is like, they're both successful in their own right. They both are kind of telling way different stories. Boruto is going in a more so, like, I would argue it was a nostalgic direction. Volume 1, I think, actually is like the Boruto Naruto the movie stuff, which is kind of crazy that it did those numbers considering like the volume came after the movie. Like, everybody already saw the movie, and maybe you could argue that that's good promo, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go out and buy a volume 1 of a movie that I saw and a TV adaptation. Like, there was a lot with that. If anything, just fans should be grateful that people care at all about both of these sequels, because it could have easily went the way of so many other sequel spin-offs that happened that nobody gave a crap about, and they basically went to the wayside, and like, that was the end of it. Like, yo, have your fan wars if you want, but honestly, I'd rather just enjoy mine. If I prefer one series over the other, that's what I'm gonna read, that's what I'm gonna enjoy, and it just is what it is. Like, honestly, when you hear feats like Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Volume 1 basically on its first day marks the best debut of a new Shonen Jump title in the 2020s decade, and it dethroned Burn the Witch, the Elusive Samurai. Like, it really shows a testament to they both have their fan bases and they both got support. Like, that should be good. But I know we're in times of war, so it is what it is. I guess I'm curious what you guys think about this whole situation. I guess one of the biggest deals is, do you think it really matters? Like, does it actually, like, okay, let's just say the fact that the Jujutsu Kaisen volume sold 7,000 more than the Boruto one, even though again it had 3 days extra. Like, does it really matter when they're damn near the same numbers? Jujutsu Kaisen is a very story-driven type of series, and like, even the Modulo manga, based on what was seen so far, at the very least, a few chapters, it's just like, it's totally different than Boruto. It's not the same type of story. Honestly, it's probably a more darker story, although Boruto can get a little bit, especially when you get to Two Blue Vortex, but that's a different story entirely. And your thoughts on fans and, series going through these situations? Like, honestly, it's kind of hilarious, because I totally get when you're doing something and it feels like, oh, they're copying me or something like that. Like, I've had those times in my life where I felt that way. But honestly, I think that that's just a very much so misguided ideology of like, oh my god, if anything, like, try your best to be inspired. But nowadays I look at it totally different, as like, yo, let's just win. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get mine regardless, and if I can help the next person do the same, not that I'm trying to be a martyr for anybody, I'm going for mine, then so be it. Yeah, it seems like this thing should be coming to a close as far as this whole back and forth with the Boruto and Jujutsu Kaisen fandoms and series, because they both sold damn near the same. They're different in many ways, but yeah, the fan bases, at the very least, the size of the fan base is accessible for them are the same. Sounds like I'm playing favoritisms, but trust me, I'm not. That's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.